Hello, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be telling you all about the 13 books that I read in the month of November. Y'all, I cannot believe it is the end of the year. I cannot believe it is officially the first day of Chanmas. I just can't believe that I'm not going to be hitting my reading goal this year, which is a little disappointing. But you know what? I've come to terms with it. I've accepted it. That goal of 300 books is far out of my reach, but I'm going to hit it next year, okay? I'm determined. We'll talk about that, in a goals video, but I just thought it was worth mentioning because I feel like I've been mentioning it in the past few wrap-ups. Wanted to keep you abreast of the situation. And unfortunately, again, not going to hit it, but that's fine. 13 books this month, and a lot of these books I have not talked to you about before, so it's going to be a fun one. Also, I had a lot of 5-star reads this month. I'm feeling good about it. First up, we have The Vibrant Years by Sonali Dev, which I read for a list video that you're going to be seeing in December. Super excited about that list because it's not a Goodreads list. One of the first I think I've ever done that's not from Goodreads. The list was so thoughtfully curated and had a lot of romances I just never heard of before. So this one is about 3 women and their relationship with each other and also their romantic relationships, right? It's kind of a multi-generational story. We've got our grandmother Bindu, we've got our mother Ali, and we've got our granddaughter Cully. Each of these women is in a very different place in their life. They all have different professional ambitions and or interpersonal ones. Bindu has been in the same marriage for such a long time. Her husband has now passed away and she is trying to, experience all that life has to offer, especially in a romantic sense. She ends up having sex with a lot of men in this retirement community, making kind of a reputation for herself, but ultimately kind of falling in love. We also have Ali, who is trying to get her own spot as an anchor on a daytime TV show. She's been working for it for a while and it just hasn't come into fruition, but she's working so hard, and that's kind of career ambitions, kind of what she's working on. Also kind of discovering what she wants romantically after divorcing Cully's father, I guess. And then Cully is trying to develop an app and or get her app funding. It's a meditation app that she feels really passionately about, and she ended up having sort of a romantic fling with a potential investor and or someone who's going to help her. That didn't work out. Now she's kind of maybe interested in someone else. The story's interesting. I really liked the intergenerational aspect, and I loved these women's relationship with each other. It's so fun reading family sagas like this for the relationships that are developed. Each person had a very unique relationship with each other. It wasn't the typical grandmother-granddaughter relationship there. And I should mention too that Bindu is actually not Ali's mother. She is Ali's mother-in-law. So whenever Ali ended up divorcing Cully's father, Bindu sided with Ali and is living kind of around her. And so I loved the family aspect of this. What I wasn't totally sold on was the romance, because you've got 3 women, 3 romances, and it's hard enough to pull off the relationship development of a romance when you've got 1 hero and heroine, but when you've got 3, it just makes it really challenging to get me to root for those relationships. So this is challenging for me because the book was on a list touted as a really great romance, and I didn't feel like the romance is really hit, but the story itself and the characters and their relationships with each other, it's kind of hard to know how to rate this book. I think I would give it 3 stars. I think enjoyment level, it's between a 3 and a 4, but in terms of what it set out to do, I think it was just a 3 because again, the romances didn't land for me. So a fun one. And I'm excited again to talk more about those books that I read for that list, because there's some interesting ones. And I think there's a couple more on this list of books that I'm talking about here for my wrap up. So we'll get to those in a minute. Next up, we have a book that was languishing on my currently reading for 2 or 3 months until I decided enough was enough and I was going to finish it, right? Because it was not a bad book. It was just a book that was not gripping me. And that book, sadly, is Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. It pains me to say that I didn't love this book because I didn't love Wild Love either. And I was hoping that Wild Eyes would be like that Elsie Silver redemption I was looking for. But I think what I'm finding with this series is that the heroines and ultimately kind of the heroes as well, are just not getting the character development that I've come to expect from Elsie Silver books. So this book is about Weston and Skylar. Weston is a rancher or something. He works with horses. You know the drill. Small town kind of guy. He is a single dad to a son and a daughter. And Skylar is in town because she is this down on her luck superstar. It's going to be recording her first album that is kind of on her own terms with the hero from the last book, who just opened his own recording studio in, Rose Hill or whatever. Our heroine has been in a situation where her parents have been managing her and she has not had a lot of control over her career. Obviously not been a huge fan of that, only that her relationship with her family is not what it should be, but also that she just hasn't had any, say in her own life for a very long time. So anyway, she's in town and she ends up kind of needing a place to live. I don't honestly remember how that kind of worked out, but she ends up living with Weston, even though he's not the person that she is working with. She ends up staying with him, and he's actually a really big fan of her country music. Here's the thing, the romance romance was sweet. The romantic relationship development was done very well, but I feel like there was so much promise in especially Skylar's journey. I really wanted to see her work through the trauma of having parents who like were not supportive in the way that she needed, who were ultimately kind of abusive to her. I wanted to see her really grow from that and get to really record this album that like felt like her truth. And there were like little tidbits of all of this, but not enough to really feel like at the end of the day, this was a really triumphant story, right? Like the setup of this, I'm not saying it's anything like what Kennedy Ryan has been writing lately, but the way that Kennedy Ryan really centers her heroines and really makes sure you get to see that journey all the way through, I love and I admire and I want to see more of in just romance in general, right? I just ultimately needed more from her story. I felt like her story was so interesting and it all kind of fell to the wayside as she entered into her romantic relationship, and that is just kind of a bummer to me as someone who really cares about my characters and really wants to see them like thrive in their romance, but also outside of that, I felt kind of let down by this one. And I just don't know, I don't want to say where I can go from here with Elsie Silver books, but I think I'm maybe getting over the single dad romance thing. I don't know. That's kind of a trend I'm seeing too. I know that that's like not in any way related to our heroines' like character development, but I'm really just finding that like a lot of our heroes too are lacking in like personal growth because they're single fathers. Like, oh, he's already a good guy because like he takes care of his kids, so we don't need to do any work to like have him grow a ton. All right, next up we have All Through the Night by Susan Brockman, which is another book for that time video. And this one I believe was selected because this author wrote a really popular like kind of crime fighting FBI agent romance series, and she made the leap in the early 2000s to write a queer romance as a part of the series, I believe in part because her son is gay. So I thought that was a really cool addition to this list. Again, all of these books are again thoughtfully curated and a lot of them are books I've just never heard of, but I'm glad to read things that are a part of kind of like romance history. So this book, I wish I could say I enjoyed more, but I do appreciate again like the history of it and like kind of its significance. So this one is about our two heroes. We've got Jules, who's an FBI agent. We've got Robin, who is this like heartthrob sort of like TV star. And at the beginning of the story, both of these men get engaged. So ostensibly their romance has developed in maybe another book that we just like haven't seen, but one of the heroes proposes to the other and they are planning a wedding. And this story is really just everything that could possibly go wrong leading up to a wedding, during a wedding, and after a wedding. It is not a super fun read. Like the first chapter, we have one of the heroes getting violently ill with food poisoning. And is that a thing that happens in real life? Certainly it does. But is it something I personally want to read about in romance? No. And things just kind of carry on from there. We've got a situation where one of the heroes gets like locked in the basement during their engagement party. This situation comes back up again during a wedding. There are just so many things that go wrong. It's like a comedy of errors, but it wasn't funny. And that was a little disappointing to me. Like I didn't love the comedy of errors kind of thing. It just stressed me out. And in addition, like I don't get to see the romance develop because these guys are already together. Like it's not really exciting to read people getting married when you have no basis for their relationship in the first place. Like how did these two fall in love? Like what did these guys love about each other? I never found out, frankly. So it was just okay. I'd probably give it like 2 stars. All right, the next book on my list is an all-time favorite, so I don't want to like go into too much depth and detail about it because I did actually talk about this one in a video where I talked about like the 30 books that changed my life. But Dark Lover by J.R. Ward is a book that I read for the podcast that I'm doing with Hayden at the beginning of next year. And this is just one of the books of my heart. Is it great? No. Does it hold up in terms of like consent and like modernity? Probably not. It definitely has like early 2000s vibes. This book's about Raph and Beth and it is a vampire romance. The hero of the book is this like vampire warrior. The heroine is like half human, has no idea she's a vampire, and she is kind of our introduction into the world. The thing I love so much about the series is really the world building and this bond of like brotherhood, this band of brotherhood, I guess you could say. I really like all of the heroes in these books. I love that I was gonna say that they're alpha males with the soft side. Not really. I'm not really into the alpha male thing, to be honest, but this book was so formative to me. The series was so formative to me. It really guest colored what I love in a good paranormal romance. And I want more. I want more from paranormal romance. I loved Bride by Hazelwood this year. That was like such an unexpected, delightful surprise. And I'm hoping that we get more paranormal romance in the future. Okay. That's really all I have to say about this book. 5 stars. It's just so fun. It's so fun. Moving on to another 5-star read, an Allie Hazelwood book, a reread. I hate to bring up a reread, but you know what? November has been a trying month for a lot of us. So sometimes you need some comfort reads. Sometimes you need a book to really soothe you, to show you what is good. I read Love on the Brain by Allie Hazelwood. This is my favorite Allie Hazelwood book, I think. There's just something about the sort of like knowing each other in different contexts thing that I fucking love, okay? Books about Bea and Levi, they are kind of, I'm gonna say rivals, but sort of like semi-professional nemesis according to Bea. Bea doesn't think that they are friends in any capacity, and they are kind of teamed up on this project at NASA. She doesn't normally work for NASA, he does. She's like coming in to work for this project temporarily. She is having to kind of fight her kind of hatred for this man. He is obviously like very standoffish and kind of rude to her, and she's trying to figure out why he feels this way towards her because she's never done anything, or so she thinks, to him. And then additionally, you've got the sort of like, I was gonna say B plot. I don't know if I'd call it a B plot, but these two know each other in different contexts because they kind of have like academic Twitter accounts where they like help people in academia who are like going through hard things, or like misogyny. In the case of Bea, she like has a Marie Curie sort of like anyway handle, and she DMs this guy repeatedly, and they've been besties for a few years at this point. And anyway, is it Levi? Yeah, it is. Okay. And I love that. I love that they got to know each other in a different context. I love how swoony this romance is. You know, does Allie Hazelwood sort of like, he did add horse with all of the repeated like hero who secretly has been pining for the heroine this whole time, but is sort of like grumpy because he feels like he has to stay away from her because of misunderstanding reasons. Does she do that too much? Yeah. Yeah, she does. But do I care? No, I don't. I highly recommend this book if you haven't tried it. Is it a little quirky? Yeah. Is the ending absolutely fucking crazy? Absolutely it is. Just don't care. Frankly, I don't care. I like the sort of Raylo fanfic vibes. I don't care about the galaxy leggings. Hell, I was gonna say I'm not gonna wear galaxy leggings, but I love this book so much. Even upon reread, like, it's a 5-star book for me. I think this is going to forever be a comfort read for me. And because of that, I picked up Two Can Play by Allie Hazelwood, which is a book that was initially released via audio on Spotify, and now I think you can find in other places. I think I got this on Hoopla, actually. This was such a delightful Christmassy time. I don't know if this was like meant to be a Christmassy novella, but it was kind of released fall time, and it is set at this sort of like wintry retreat. So you've got a hero and a heroine who work at rival video game studios. The studios have to come together to create a video game based on a beloved series of books that our heroine is obsessed with, and she is really insistent on doing a good job and making this collaboration work, even though, again, the studios don't totally get along. And the hard part is that the, I guess, head guy at the other studio is someone who she again had a misunderstanding with. She thinks he hates her. It's obviously not the case. Has he been celibate for many years because the only person they need to everyone have sex with is her? Yes. It's a plot that works for me. It's a vibe that works for me. I really liked this. Again, it's set at this kind of like winter retreat. You've got like hot tub scenes, and even though this is a novella, it felt really well rounded. It felt really well done. Novella actually worked well for this because, again, it is kind of slice of life. These two get to kind of resolve the misunderstanding, and we don't get to see past that really, but we know they're going to try to work things out, and we know they're going to have a successful romantic relationship into the future because they share a love of each other's parts and also of a beloved book series. He also loves it, of course, because like, why wouldn't he? Okay, I fucking love this. I gave both of these books 5 stars. I feel like that doesn't need to be said at this point. I don't know that I've given any Allie Hazelwood books less than 5 stars. One of them, actually, I think it was her first one, and that's okay. All right, next up, a truly cuckoo bananas book that was on that time list. We've got If Only It Were True by Mark Levy. Levy? I don't know. He's French. Picture this. Gorgeous apparition shows up in your new apartment. You're a man. This person is non-corporeal, but you can tell that the body be banging. So what should you do? You should get to know her, of course, right? This kind of like ghost living in your apartment. You should realize her body is still on Earth in a coma. You should steal her body from the hospital, bring it to your house, sit in your spare room, try to find a way to connect her soul with her body. It's not going to work. You're going to get caught. The body's going to be brought back to the hospital. Someone is going to find a way to get her out of this coma. He's not going to remember who you are, but you're going to live happily ever after anyway. Interesting, intriguing, weird. This is a book by a French author, and I think it was put on this list because he's a French author, and this book inspired the movie Just Like Heaven with Reese Witherspoon. There are definitely like books from different countries on this list, which again, I think is like very cool. Would I maybe have picked this one? No. Was it a massive banger in France at the time? I don't know. Y'all have to let me know if you are French and also older than me and like read this book when it first came out. I don't know. Is this really like a cult favorite there? I'm not quite sure, but what I am sure about is it was fucking weird, and I did not like it. The romantic relationship development, not there, like whatsoever. Not only was like the plot cuckoo, I couldn't look past it because the romance just like wasn't there. He was like, I've had a couple of conversations with her, and I think she's smart and pretty and fun, and I want to fuck her body that is a real body and not the ghost body, so I need to make sure that her human body is with me. I don't know. He does not do anything untoward to her, I should say, when she's in the coma, but anyway, 2 stars. Next up, we have a book that I am very disappointed in. Let's talk about the Vows by Jessica Joyce. Never have I picked up a book where I was so convinced I would love it and then didn't. Actually, That's sort of the story of my life. What am I talking about? This book is about 3 people, but it's a romance between 2 of them. Bear with me. We've got Georgia, we've got Adam, we've got Eli. Georgia, besties with Adam her whole life, basically. Later on in their life, in like high school, Eli comes along and he is now also besties with Adam and sort of by association becomes besties with Georgia. Georgia and Eli end up getting together later on. Their relationship develops into something romantic, but they do break up after a little while because our hero is a little too obsessed with his career and is not obsessed enough with our heroine like he needs to be. But these 2 have to come back together because Adam is getting married to his dream girl and they're still best friends with him. So sort of a tricky situation, right? Here's the thing. Second chance romances are incredibly hard to pull off. They just are. I think this one was really trying to convince us that these 2 were meant to be together because the only reason that they broke up was something that our hero remedied. I said this in my review of this book on my vlog channel, but I feel like this book was too convenient in a lot of ways. So like our heroine, for instance, she has a lot of insecurity because her dad didn't pay enough attention to her growing up and was too focused on his career. Our hero is too focused on his career. Our hero, his insecurity, his like childhood trauma is the fact that his dad like lost his job during the recession, wasn't able to hold the job down after that, and so he ends up kind of working himself to the bone as a response to that. I don't want to say that their traumas manifested in like unrealistic ways because I think this is like the most natural conclusion of those traumas. My problem was that just everything was too convenient. Like, of course, his like problem is going to be that he didn't pay enough attention to her because of his job, and the only reason he paid too much attention to his job is because of his dad. And it kind of bothered me. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted there to be like more complexity to the reasons that they broke up and maybe like have more on-page reasons why these 2 would get back together. One of those situations where I could tell the author like really wanted to create this super angsty story and I just like ultimately wasn't convinced of the angst and the tension. The ultimate culmination of like the sexy times was like fine. I was like actually excited when they did get together. I don't know. It just never really had me like giggling, kicking my feet, or like just panting for them to get together. Like I was happy when they got together, wasn't panting for it. And then when everything kind of resolved at the end, I was like, okay, fine. I don't know. The third conflict of this book was also kind of like stupid. Hard because a lot of people that I really respect love this book. I just didn't, which sucks. I think I'd give it 3 stars. It wasn't bad, but I feel like I have so many things to say about it because it didn't work for me. I don't know. Kind of surprised me that it sort of worked for me was Lights Out by Novella Allen. I picked this one up because I thought it was going to make it on the Goodreads Choice Awards. I'll be honest with you. I also picked it up because I like to know what's good, what is bad, what's poppin', and this book was really popping off on TikTok. How would I know? Because I'm not on Book Talk. I don't know. But I did see on Amazon that says like Book Talk sensation. So I picked it up, okay? This book's about Alyssa and Josh. Alyssa's really obsessed with dudes that wear masks and like no clothes on TikTok. And she keeps like commenting on this one dude's TikTok account a fuckload, okay? And this guy ends up realizing that the person that's commenting is his roommate's ex-hookup, and he knows this girl. He's also kind of obsessed with this girl. And what's he gonna do? Weird stalkery things, right? He's gonna like put cameras in her house. He's gonna film TikToks in her house while she's like working the trauma unit at the hospital because that's like her job. They fall in love. They do like weird knife play together. They have primal play, I think is what the description says for this book synopsis. It's a dark romance. It's what it is. They like do like kooky shit together and it's supposed to be fun for people. And you know what? Do I care about dark kinky romances? No, I don't. It's just not really my thing. But was this one pleasing enough? Yes. The thing I think that sets this one apart from a lot of dark romances, 2 things. One, the humor. This book was funny. Like this book didn't try too hard to be overly serious and overly dark. I think that can honestly get you into corny territory. So I really appreciated that it was just like fun. And additionally, the romance itself was not dark. There were not any like real consent issues here. Our hero was very much a golden retriever. He wanted them to have a healthy relationship in exploring their kinks together, which I really appreciated, frankly. And finding I don't hate dark romance so much, I just really don't like when the romances are toxic, right? Like I'm cool with a mafia romance. I'm cool with like dark settings, but I don't want the romance itself to be dark. So does that mean I don't like dark romance? I'm not quite sure, but I did like this book. I thought it was fun. I'd give it 3 stars. Let's talk about Christmas novellas, okay? Kindle Unlimited put out 5 Christmas novellas from popular romance authors, and I was fucking hyped, frankly. I read 3 of them, saving the 2 hopefully best for last. I'll be reading those over on my vlog channel at some point during Chanmas, so be on the lookout for that. But let's talk about 3 increasing enjoyment order, I guess? So like the worst one first. Okay, Merry Ever After by Tessa Bailey. So it's a shame when your 2 legs and your 3rd leg are just simply too thick for jeans, right? But if you're hot enough, there might be a situation in which a hot single mother might make you a pair of pants, right? She sees you come in day after day looking for pants gonna fit your juicy thighs and massive schlong, and they don't, and it breaks her heart, so she makes you those pants, and it makes you want to burst out of those pants sexually and y'all consummate your love. Tessa Bailey, big naturals, and members too large for sucking kind of way. Can't be serious when I talk about this book. Honestly, this is a very smutty Christmas novella with a lot of like daddy talk, typical Tessa Bailey fuckery. Like if that is something you're looking for, here it is. The reason this didn't work for me, as someone who likes Tessa Bailey from time to time, is because Tessa Bailey works best when buffered with plot, and this didn't have that, right? This is just like weird, crazy sex. I'd rather read like a Jessica Kane, to be honest. I think Jessica Kane does it better. I think she makes me giggle a little bit more. This one did make me laugh. It did make me laugh. I'll give her that. It just wasn't like something that I'm gonna rush out and tell all my friends about to go pick up and to love, making me lose speech. So, Merriment and Mayhem by Alexandria Bellefleur was okay. It is a book about Everleigh and Griffin. Points off for Everleigh being spelled with an L-E-I-G-H, but she is trying to sell her grandmother's home in Port Angeles, I want to say. Her grandma's dead. She's going to kind of jazz up the home for the holidays and try to get it sold. Griffin's a firefighter, and he ends up coming to Everleigh's rescue a couple of times because she is really accident prone. I liked the setup of the story. I thought it was cute enough for a Christmas novella. I just didn't really like the sex scene, you know? And when it is a smutty Christmas novella, the sex scene takes up like a decent amount of page length, and there's just a little bit too much talk about his holiday icing for my liking, you know, and that's just a purely personal preference thing. Other than that, I thought the story was fine. It wasn't anything to write home about, and I feel like there are better Christmas novellas out there, so it was like a 3-star, it was fine. A book that was a little bit better, a novella that I thought was like tangentially just a little bit better, Only Santa's in the Building by Alexis Daria. This book's about Evie and Luke. I need to stop saying book. It's not a book, it's a novella. This novella is about Evie and Luke. Evie is a comic book illustrator, and she has a really big crush on one of her neighbors in her apartment building, and the story is kind of about these two having a little bit of a holiday fling and also a relationship that carries on into the future. The hero is also kind of creatively inclined. He is a big softie and is kind of quiet and staid, and I just really liked this. I thought it was really sweet. I feel like this had just enough development and just enough of like a meet cute situation that was satisfying for a Christmas novella. I think that like this is probably one of the better ones in this set, though I'm praying to God the Tessa Bailey one and the Olivia Dade one also kind of rock my world, so fingers crossed. This was cute. 3 stars. Moving on to my last book, a book that I think again is just hammering home for me. The idea that I'm not sure that I love single parent romances anymore, is Lost and Lassoed by Lila Sage. This book was good. I will preemptively say that. The book's about Teddy and Gus, and it is an enemies to lovers romance. A little bit of context for this relationship in the prior book. We sort of see the antagonistic setup for Teddy and Gus, and so we were all really excited to pick this one up, right? But this book surprised me in that it is a very, I don't want to say tame enemies to lovers story, but it is a very quiet book, more about the development of Teddy and Gus as people. So Teddy ends up losing her job at the beginning of the story and doesn't really know what she wants to do next. She is really busy taking care of her dad who has health problems, just feels kind of lost, right? And she doesn't want to ask for help even though she could probably use it. And Gus is having to kind of solo parent for the first time. He is a single dad, but he co-parents with his daughter's mom, and the mom is out of town, and so he is kind of left with all of these responsibilities on the ranch and also taking care of his daughter. So he ends up hiring Teddy, despite them kind of not having a great relationship, to take care of his daughter Riley, because again, Teddy has lost her job. So Gus is learning to accept help. So is Teddy. They are more similar than they are different, even though they kind of butt heads. And seeing their relationship unfold, I thought was really sweet and really romantic. There wasn't anything in this book that really stood out to me as like, oh, I don't like this. Like, I really am not like a fan of this particular trope or the way this was executed. Like, there wasn't anything in this book that really stood out to me as like problematic or unenjoyable. But I was expecting the enemies to lovers to be a little bit more aggressive. Like, I was expecting Teddy and Gus to really butt heads. But from the beginning of the story, the enemies to lovers sort of like fades away, and there is just sort of like a misunderstanding between these two about how the other feels about the other person, like how, you know, Teddy feels about Gus and Gus feels about Teddy. Be nice to each other for the sake of this kid. They find over time that they actually do just kind of like each other, aside from being sexually attracted to each other, which they have been this entire time. Just the way the book progressed was kind of a slow burn. Not slow in terms of like there not being sexual tension, but more slow in terms of it not being this like fiery thing, I guess. And I think that if you were expecting that, you might be disappointed with this book. I wouldn't say that I was like disappointed, but I was expecting something, I guess, just a little bit different. And I think because of the quietness of the story, I was a little bit bored at times. I don't even want to say bored. I didn't put this book down at any point. It wasn't like unexciting, but I don't feel like it was swoony for me. And I'm finding that with a fair amount of Lila Sage books, which sounds so negative. Like, I've given all of her books 4 stars because I know that she is a technically talented author. I enjoy all of her stories. I just haven't really found one that is like my Lila Sage book. I think it's really impressive for an author to be be able to be a consistent 4-star author for me because I am notoriously picky. I think I'm still waiting for that 5-star from her, and I'm gonna keep putting her books on like my most anticipated list because she is so talented, and I know that 5-star is just around the corner for me. So yeah, those are the 13 books that I read this month, my friends. I had such a good reading month, honestly. I was gonna say a lot of 5-star reads. I think the Allie Hazelwood books just really like turned things around for me and like made my reading year that much better. It was a good month. It's been a good year, all things considered. First half could be better. Second half has been really, really amazing. I'm so excited to see what 2025 has in store for all of us. I'll get more, deep and introspective probably in like a goals video and or like a reflection video for this past year. But thanks so much for watching, y'all. I hope y'all stay tuned for the rest of Chanmas. Like I said, I'm gonna be posting more videos here on my main channel this month than normal, and also videos over on the vlog channel. So you're gonna be getting videos from me every day. I'll also put a playlist on my channel so you can like easily navigate all of the videos between the two channels. But yeah, love y'all so much, and I will see you in the next one.